Since the release of the DJI O4 system, one of the biggest complaints on the standard O4 Air unit, or what is known as the Lite, has been the narrow field of view on the camera. The camera module on the O4 system actually comes from DJI's drones. So for instance, the O4 standard, or what is known as the Lite camera, is taken from the Neo, and the camera on the Pro is taken from the Avata 2. Unfortunately, whilst this camera module on the standard Air unit might be ideal for a small Neo selfie drone, it isn't ideal for small and lightweight whoops. Now, over the period that this system has been released, there has been a bunch of modifications out there allowing you to get wider field of view on this camera. There are 3D printable lens adapters, and Flywoo even released a lens adapter kit for the O4 Air unit. However, DJI have decided now to do something about this themselves, and they have now released this, the O4 Wide Air unit, that takes the field of view up from 117 degrees on the original one up to 159 degrees on the new O4 Wide, making that even wider than the field of view on the Pro. Not only is it offering you a wider field of view, but it's also now got a proper glass lens on it rather than the horrible plastic lens on this one. And what we're going to do today is take a look at this, get it in the air, and share with you my thoughts. Now, the first thing to understand about this new Air unit is the fact that it is overall the same main specifications. So it is still the same O4 Lite Air unit, exactly the same camera capabilities. We even believe it's using the same camera sensor. Looking at it so far, it is the same Air unit, single antenna, less power output than the Pro. Nothing about the Air unit on this kit has changed. All of the change is here around this camera module. Now, looking at the camera, the first thing that you will notice is it is now fitted with a proper lens. If we look at the original camera module on the O4 Air unit, it had this really quite cheap plastic lens assembly with a plastic lens elements that was mounted on the board, whereas this now appears to have a proper camera lens assembly. It has a new housing around the outside that does look very familiar, and I will talk about that in a minute, but it is now a more traditional FPV camera in the sense of it has a normal style lens, and it even has the lens hood on this now, like you saw with the O4 Pro camera, to allow you to mount on ND filters. Now, looking around it, everything on this is very similar to the original camera from the sense of looking at the boards, it is basically identical. There is actually a slight change, and that slight change is in the thickness of the PCBs. You can see the thickness of the PCB on the new camera is substantially more than the thickness of the PCB on the original camera. However, it is the same overall camera design. In fact, it even has the same markings on it. It has the same gyro sensor on it as well, exactly the same as they were using before. The ICM 40692, that is the same gyro here as we had here. The lens assembly may look very familiar to you if you're someone who has had one of these, the Flywoo lens kit. I'm going to use the words it is inspired by the Flywoo lens kit. I can confirm it is not exactly the same. It is not the actual module that Flywoo were using. There are a few changes, but it is very, very similar. When you do put them side by side, there are some molding differences in the plastics. DJI have also moved to their standard mounting pattern for O4 on this camera module as well. This is the same mounting pattern that we had on the DJI O4 Pro Air unit, so it's moved up to that. But obviously, what they have been able to do is fit on a lens that now has that big increase of field of view, as I mentioned earlier, going from 117.6 on the original to 159 degrees on this new one. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, what is the benefit of this over what Flywoo had done here originally? Just to give you a bit of a proper look at the new DJI one compared to the Flywoo one, as I said, they are very, very similar. The wording that I would use is inspired by. It certainly isn't the same housing. There are molding differences, there are screw size differences, and in fact, you can even see that the lens is different as well. The DJI one is actually a little bit bigger overall. The depth of the lens element there at the front is different, but it's hard not to think that DJI didn't see what Flywoo were doing and thought, hey, we'd like a little bit of that. And the reality of this is, whilst Flywoo did make a nice wide-angle lens kit 404, it did come with some compromises. It wasn't officially supported in the DJI software. It had some vignetting, it had some distortion, whereas now DJI have been able to actually develop this themselves. I haven't seen it fully yet. I have powered it on in the studio, and I can tell you it does look pretty good, but we will take a look at it in a minute. But the benefit here is that you should have a proper solution rather than the modified version that we had before. Now, as I've said, there really isn't a great deal to talk about with regards to the ear unit. Everything else is exactly the same. Basically, what DJI have done is bolted on a new modified camera. Now, obviously, with any changes like this, there is going to be a penalty or a downside, and that is the fact that this ear unit weighs more than the original one. If we just check on my scales, we are fine. The original ear unit camera and antenna on the O4 comes in at 8.35 grams on my scales. And if we check this against the new camera ear unit and antenna, just coiling that round, you can see that comes in at 13.65 grams. DJI are officially saying it is 8.2 grams for the original one and 13.3, but we're a little bit over on both. But what you can see is that there is a bit of a weight penalty as a result of moving to this more substantial camera unit. Now, alongside the DJI release, we also have a number of new drones using this new wide ear unit kit. The Firefly 1S is one of them. I'm going to be talking about that in a video shortly, and we're going to be using this to demonstrate it today. However, you also have this from Flywoo as well, which is their O4 Wide Ear Unit Pro Kit. Now, this is a modified version of the wide ear unit kit. It comes with the ear unit in this aluminium casing that you can see there, and it also has the camera mounted already in their kit with an ND filter option on the front, and Flywoo also have a set of ND filters available for this too. That is available in ND 8, 16 and 32 as you see there. Now, what is rather interesting about this is the fact that Flywoo are also installing the MP66 gyro on this kit, rather than it having the standard ICM gyro like on both the original O4 ear unit and the O4 Wide. It has the MP66 gyro, which came originally on the O4 Pro ear unit, which isn't available now. Flywoo are offering all of their ear units and cameras with the MP66 gyro swap as an option. They've actually done that manually on these ear units, and that means you're going to hopefully get more stable footage compared to the original in frame setups where the vibration isolation isn't doing a good enough job. Just to give you a bit of a closer look over this O4 Lite Pro air unit. You can see it's housed in this aluminium casing with a 20 by 20 and 25 by 25 mounting pattern. It's aluminium machined on this side with fins, so that should help keep it cool. And then on the back, you can see it's machined there as well. They've also put some nice labeling all the way around it. You can see USB-C, the connector for the main input. You've got your UFL. And then on this side here, they even show the direction towards the USB as well. When it comes to the camera, they are including a longer camera cable as standard. The camera is fitted with this plastic housing on the back, like you had on the original wide angle kit from Flywoo. You can see it's labeled version 2 there on the side. It's got the multiple mounting points there as well. What I'll do is I'll get this off so you guys can have a look in a minute as well. But what this also does is have the fitment for the ND filter. You can see on the front there, the ND is mounted on. I just give that a little bit of a pop. You can actually pop the ND filter off and you can replace that glass filter with whatever option you want. So for instance, you've got the additional ND filters available from Flywoo here. These will simply pop off. So if I give that a little bit of a tug there, you can see pop off and unclip, and you can pop on your ND8, your ND16, and your ND32 as well. Now, removing the Flywoo back cover, you can see that reveals the back end of the camera. You can see that this is a O4 wide camera. This isn't Flywoo's own modified one. They're using the standard O4 wide camera here as well. However, the party piece on this one is the fact that this is using that MP66 gyro. From here, the soldering all looks really quite well done. I think what we're going to have to do is get it under the microscope and have a closer look, but I certainly can't see any evidence at this point any work has actually been performed. So going in closer, there you can see that MP66 gyro on the back. At this point, I can see that some work has been done. You can see that there's a little bit of flux around the gyro sensor there. You can see that there's been a little bit of heat on the side of the board there. So clearly a little bit of work has been performed. However, it does look like it's been done very clean and tidy, to be fair. And I think for most people, you wouldn't know anything has happened. Okay, so to show you the differences of field of view in the studio, here is the original O4 Lite air unit. I've mounted the camera in a specific place. Here we are in 16:9 wide mode with rock steady turned off. So this gives you an idea of this field of view in this mode. I'm now gonna switch over to 4:3 so you can see it in that mode as well. So here I'm recording in 4:3 mode. Here you're seeing the field of view through the goggles that I'm able to get on the standard camera. Here I've now switched over to the new wide air unit with the camera in 4:3. And then I will switch over to 16:9 then as well, so you can see that here in a minute. More than anything, this is just to give you a bit of a demo of the differences in the studio between the field of views. And here we have it in 16:9. So again, you can see that full width field of view through the goggles. It's the goggles view I'm really interested in showing you right now, because this is where you're going to see the biggest difference for people who are needing that field of view when flying whoops. Now it was time to take it down the field for a flight. I ended up actually putting it on the Firefly 16, not the 18. Bit of a long story behind that, which I'll talk about in the review for that video. However, we've got the O4 wide and we're also going to be using the ND filters. Okay, so we're here at the field and we're going to do our first flight. So this is with the O4 wide in 4K mode. For some reason, I have a land now warning with the battery on the screen. I have no idea on this quad why this is doing this a minute. That's something I'll have a look at when I land in a minute. For some reason it seems to think the battery's low when it clearly isn't. So we're recording this in 4K 60, 16:9. So you're getting here a full view of the camera and lens on this new wide air unit. This should offer a pretty decent imaging quality improvement over what we had on it before, because we now have a proper glass lens, not the plastic lens that we had on the O4 Lite before. And as a result of that, it should not only give us that wider field of view, but also much improved image quality. Now, Rocksteady is turned off on this at the moment. We will put it in 4x3 mode in a minute on a different flight to give you an idea of how that looks. But more than anything, I just want to let you see how this wide looks. Through the goggles, I have to say, this looks fantastic. This is a big improvement over what we had on the Lite. It's still an interesting release, this, because DJI sneaked this out. No one was expecting this. I literally got a hint like 24 hours before it was released that something was coming. And it's weird in the sense that obviously Flywoo had their kits that they were selling, but DJI have decided, no, we're going to bring this in-house and we're going to do it ourselves. Now, it is a little bit windy here today. It's not as calm as I would like. You can see that the trees are being blown around. So for a quad of this size, you are going to get a little bit of movement. Just going to hold it still there a second. Wow, that is such a great field of view. Let's have a look what... Yeah, obviously there's a bit of a bow in the lens. You can see it there as we shift the horizon up and down. But it's not terrible. DJI have done a nice job there. And it's going to make it not only better for quad users, but this is going to make the O4 Lite Wide a far more viable choice for everyday FPV over the O4 Pro. It's not just about small and lightweight 1S. This is going to mean people who are not needing the O4 Pro camera size and weight and air unit size and weight, this is going to offer some real nice options now. And I can see this being incredibly popular in fixed wing. I really can. Right, let's swap this battery. Okay, so this flight, I'm in 4x3 mode. Now, I've taken the ND filter off for this a minute, because when I had the ND filter on, I was getting a little bit of vignetting in the corners. I will put the ND filter back on in a minute so you guys can see it. Now, obviously, as a result of the ND filter being off, you're going to have a little bit more artifacts in the footage here today. It is very bright, and it's a little bit windier now than it even was on that previous flight, so you can see that moving around. But here you can see how it looks in 4x3 mode, the kind of view you get in. We've got plenty of view over the props in this now. Wow, you can really see them quite easily in the bottom of the frame. Because we're in that 4x3 mode, you've got a massive vertical field of view as well. Again, I think this makes a big difference. Just to show you vignetting on the camera and the warping on the lens, pretty good. If this was how O4 Lite, as we call it, had launched, I think people would have been a lot happier with it, although obviously there is a penalty on this, which is weight. It's not as light as the standard one. It does appear to be the case that DJI has also ended the standard one. They haven't out and out said it, and on their website they are still showing all 3 models listed, but from an availability perspective you cannot get the lightweight original version at all, and that would somewhat hint that DJI has decided that they're done. They're no longer going to support it. Again, I think this makes massive difference. Oh, it's battery sag there, only just recovered from that one. But yeah, I do think this does make a big difference on how this looks and feels. I'm going to go down to the lighter battery in a minute, and we'll push things a little harder once we do that. The wind is also having an impact here today as well. You can see we're being pushed around by the wind quite a bit here now. But yeah, that's tons of field of view. You know, the most we have on O4 period. We don't have remotely this much field of view available on the original, and even O4 Pro doesn't quite have this much. As I mentioned in the first flight, the image quality does look so much better. Let me just hold it there. The wind is really tossing this around a bit here today. I can't underplay how much better the image looks. And you can actually see this in the studio as well when I was testing it. It should also improve it in low light as well. So for the people who want to use the light in other conditions other than small quads, bright daylight, it should offer some decent performance there as well. The sensor's the same, but the difference between having a plastic and a glass lens is dramatic. That lens that was on the original light was designed for the Neo, and it wasn't great. It never was. So this time I'm still in 4x3 mode, but I've put the ND filter on. So here you can now see that we are getting a little bit of, you know, vignetting or, you know, effect from the ND filter in the corners in the 4x3 mode. You can see the top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. You have, you know, the corners are cut off basically. This is with the Flywoo ND filter. So if you were flying this in 4x3 mode with the ND filter on, you are going to feel it. It is something that you do need to be aware of. I did fly my first flight in 16:9 with the ND filter on, and I didn't notice any effect, but I will do it again in a minute just to confirm and show you 100% that there is no effect on the filter, that there's nothing that is going to have an impact if you were using it for filming. Again, not the best of conditions here today to demonstrate it. Will be interesting to see what this is like with regards to the vibration on this gyro, because it is using the ICM gyro, not the MPU 66. Just flying it around. Wind is actually getting worse. You can actually start to see it a lot more in the footage, even in comparison to what it was like when I started. When I came down the field, you could feel the wind, but it didn't feel as bad as it is now, that's for sure. But yeah, overall I think it's better, and the only downside is it weighs more, and that's really all there is to say when it comes to the new O4 Wide Airunit. Just quickly before I move over to the 16:9, I've popped it into 1080p 100 frames a second just to record in that, just to show you the effect in that, because I can't remember off the top of my head if there's a crop difference in those modes. So let's just pop it forward there a sec to have a look. Because obviously the recording DVR is slightly different to the goggles DVR. I can't remember if the crop is visible in those modes or not. I'm doing all of this with gyro flow stabilization ability, as in wide, non-rock steady. I will do a quick flight with rock steady on as well, just to see the difference, but I thought I would just do this one to show it. What I'll do is I'll come in and swap this battery now over to rock steady. Okay, same battery, but I've now swapped over to Rocksteady being on. So rather than being in wide, we're now recording with Rocksteady in 1080p 100 frames a second. So this will just give you an idea of how this looks in comparison. Obviously, this is the mode people like because it offers the lowest latency on the O4 system. What you don't get is the same latency in the 2.7K and 4K modes on O4. You only have 60 frames a second. Unfortunately, you don't have the 100 frames a second modes available. Thinking about it, I should probably also check it in race mode as well, just to show you that, just to give you an idea of how that looks. I will do a quick race mode flight too before we finish. Oh, that's this battery done. Okay, back in 16:9 mode with the ND filter on. We're in wide, non-gyro flow. I can just see a little bit in the corners. Let me just show you in the sky. If I hold it there, if you look at the blue in the sky, you can just see a little bit of vignetting. Tiny, tiny amount. Most people wouldn't notice it unless you went looking for it, but it is there with the ND filter fitted, so it is just worth taking that into account. But that's in the live view. What we see in the recorded view may and will vary, but I just wanted to show that. Should probably also do a rock steady in 16:9 as well. Let's bring it in just to do that, just to have a look at what that looks like. Okay, so 16:9 rock steady now turned on. So again, we'll put up the actual flight footage to show this. Now I'll have fun aligning this all back at the studio. Really, this is just to show you what this lens looks like. It's designed to be nothing more than that. Just looking at the sky, because the sky is always a good indication. Oh, there's a man walking over there, and this battery's nearly done. And then the one last thing we'll do is hop it into race mode, just to check that there isn't anything I've missed or anything like that in those modes. I have to say though, I like this. Okay, last flight in race mode. Rocksteady turned off, 4x3 wide. Don't have a full battery here, literally just popped one on to charge in the field for a couple of seconds. So this is by far the lowest latency mode available in the system. Obviously, race mode is going to limit you to 1080p 100 frames a second for your DVR as well as your live view recording view. But it does give you lowest latency that is available in the system period. So again, this should just give us an indication of how the O4 camera hangs on. Oh, battery's sagging there. It's very hot here in the UK today as well. I need a bit more stick movement than I'm used to giving at times. Just moving around. Yeah, I don't even have any power in this today. Can I recover? Oh, didn't want to play ball at all there, but right. Okay, I will see you guys back at the studio. Now, before I finish on the footage, I just want to show you that last flight in gyro flow. A lot of the earlier flights, I was recording in wide mode with rock steady stabilization turned off to show you the raw footage. I haven't bothered stabilizing that footage through gyro flow. I wanted to show you it just to sort of prove that I wasn't getting any of these judders that some people get with the O4 and the O4 Pro. Now, in all of my footage, pretty much all of the movement you're seeing is wind. There was quite a lot of it in this last flight that I showed you, and I just want to show you that in gyroflow. I'm not going to bother exporting this to demonstrate it, but this just shows you the movement that you were seeing is the wind on the aircraft. Yes, this camera is using the ICM gyro. It is not using the MP66. And as a result of that, some people may find that they get problems. It isn't something that I've seen in any of my footage so far, but I did just want to sort of prove, especially from that last flight, how much movement there was in the aircraft that was causing the movement that you were seeing in the footage. Now, something else I'll just mention in this is actually a early release version of gyroflow, and they are introducing something new in gyroflow called glitch filtering. This is an attempt to remove some of the issues that people have been having with their O4 data. It's something I'm going to talk about in a separate video coming soon, but I did just want to mention it here as well today. There is also other software in the works to try and smooth out these problems as well. But more than anything, I did just want to sort of prove here that the footage is fine. It's simply the wind that's been moving the aircraft around. Okay, so to share with you my thoughts on the O4 Wide, and I think it is just better in every way. Yes, it weighs more, however, you're now getting a camera with a proper lens, not that plastic nonsense. You're getting much, much wider field of view. The widest field of view available in O4 today, but a field of view that makes sense now. Yes, it comes at a penalty, and that penalty is weight. However, it is worth it for what you're getting, but it's not just about the width. It's the improvement in image quality as well. It is definitely better in my testing, and it should be a lot better in low light too. I haven't had a chance to test it too much, but looking in the studio, it definitely should offer a step further over what we had before. This isn't a dramatic change. It's not a new product in the sense of new sensor, new ear unit, same sensor, just improved lens. But it is sort of a rehash, a update, a re-imaging of what the O4 ear unit should be. And it's good to see DJI hasn't completely forgotten about it. It's a bizarre release, and if we sit here and think about this and go, so DJI have looked at what Flywoo were doing and said, nah, you know what, we're going to do that ourselves and offer it as a product. You know, just the cost of changing the production on the boxes makes me wonder how much this was worth doing from DJI's perspective. But clearly, this was something that they listened to the feedback on. It has been a constant sort of comment that's been raised on DJI forum, and as a result of that, DJI seem to have listened, and they've given us this new ear unit. Also, on top of that, you also have Flywoo's variants as well, which offer MP66 gyro, at least for now. If you want to go and get yourself them, you can order them from the Flywoo website. And really, it's good to see that DJI haven't completely forgotten about the O4 system. Now, obviously, before I finish this up, I do just need to address the complaints that people still have around vibration issues on O4 and O4 Pro. Nothing has changed here from DJI in that regard. That ear unit still has the same gyro because the MP66 is gone. It is end of life. Whilst there is stock out there from a manufacturing perspective, DJI cannot use that gyro anymore. Yes, Flywoo and others might be able to get hold of smaller supplies, but from DJI's perspective, they can't use it. This still uses that ICM gyro. Nothing's changed there. As you saw on my footage today, I'm not getting any issues on this quad, but you may. That is the same as before, although it is just worth taking into account, as this camera has a new lens and mounting system, the mass of the camera has changed, and that mass in itself may have an impact positively or negatively on this vibration performance. DJI still recommend you soft mount your cameras even with the light, so nothing has changed in that regard. About the only negative I can say here is the fact that it is a little bit heavier and you do get some vignetting on the ND filters, but it doesn't affect the stabilized footage, so that it is worth just understanding that. As I showed earlier, that they did have some vignetting when looking through the live view, but the stabilized footage crops that out, both rock steady as well as gyro stabilized. So don't worry, you can still use the footage with the ND filters as long as you are exporting it with stabilization. Now, that's it from me on this one. I hope you found it useful. If you have, please do let me know what you think down below. And finally, if you'd like to support the channel to allow me to keep making videos like this, please do check out the links to my Patreon as well as buy me a coffee. It's only through the support of my Patrons I'm able to keep making content. And if you'd like to support us, please do check it out. I want to say a massive thank you to all of my Patrons. We could not do this without your support. Also, if you want a link to the Flywoo stuff, that'll be down below as well. That's it from me. Stay safe, and I will speak to you soon.